Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Paranormal Guyz. We are fortunate and blessed to have a guest from overseas, and we are doing the special recording just so we can get her in here. First, let me introduce my lovely co-host, Miss Cheyenne. Hello, how are you?
Waking up.
Yeah, we're recording this one early. This is not normally the regular Paranormal Guyz. We're not very early morning people. So, our guest today is from UK, and she is a Reverend Alyson. We're going to bring you in. Hello there, my friend. How are you today?
Hi there. I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. We're glad you're here. We've been trying to schedule you for a bit now.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh,
of course.
Thank you. So, Allison, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, where do I start? Okay. Well, I live in Glasgow in Scotland. I'm married to my husband Ian, is a psychic medium. I have a background in various different sort of religious, faiths, including Buddhism and Paganism, Gnosticism, and Christianity. So my beliefs are a bit of a mixture, really. I'm now a liberal Catholic deacon with the Old Catholic and Apostolic Church. Sorry, it's the Old Catholic Apostolic Church. I keep on putting in the and, I don't know why. So it's the OCAC, and they're a liberal Catholic church. And I'm going to be ordained as a priest with them in July.
Oh, congratulations.
So that's who I am. I write as well, and I help to run SPI Scotland, or SPI, Strange Phenomena Investigations, and I've just brought out my first sort of, it's kind of semi-autobiographical. It's a book that I've brought out. It's about my own mystical experiences, but in with that are other things and other people's experiences as well. So it's a bit of a mixture of those things.
Okay. What got you on this journey? Has it always been a lifelong journey, or did you have an event?
I think it has been a lifelong journey. When I was growing up, I wasn't really pushed to one faith or another. I was born into a Church of Scotland family, but it was never sort of force-fed, and it was a case of, if you want to try out this church or that church, that's entirely your decision. Won't make you go to church, but if you want to come to church, that's absolutely fine too. And so I ended up going to a spiritualist church, and later found out that my great-grandmother had been a spiritualist. I didn't know this. And my brother and my sister-in-law, they also went to spiritualist churches. So there was a sort of underlying, there was other things as well that was just the family that I was brought up in. There was just this underlying belief of the afterlife, and this interest in the afterlife. I don't know if it's a Scottish thing, my granny would read the tea leaves and, things like that. And as time went on, I was still looking for something. something to sort of clutch onto. But spiritualism and then Buddhism and then paganism sort of took me along that path. And it wasn't really until my late 20s when I had an Incubus experience that I began to research the subject of demons and sleep paralysis as well. But I've got some views about the differences there. So that, I guess, sort of led me on to the path that I eventually found myself on. So,
Okay.
yeah.
When you said you had your first experience, what was that, or what was it like?
It was an Incubus experience, which is a night demon. I had been having a nightmare, first of all, which was about vampires. And that's quite important because some demons can manifest as they actually are taking your energy. And I woke up and I tried to waken my partner, because when I woke up I was quite fearful. And things didn't seem right because everything was the same in the room, but it was a different colour. Everything was in this bluish shade. And I couldn't waken him up, which I later found out was a feature of the Incubus attacks, that you can't waken up your partner. And the next thing, I was flipped onto my back and I had this, what could only be described as a demon that was on top of me. It's kind of vampiric in appearance, thin-faced, sort of long dark hair, sort of straggly hair, white-faced, and sort of grimacing. And over in the corner there was this old lady in a nightdress and long straggly hair, who I later found out was the Mara, where we get the word nightmare from. And it can also be known as old hag syndrome when you see this lady. And she was laughing into her hand and finding it extremely funny. And the demon on top of me said, "You thought you could get away from me, didn't you?" Which isn't it's not creepy at all, is it?
Yes.
And yeah, that was the first thing. It was scraping at my neck, trying to cut my throat with its fingernail. That was another thing. Now, as I say, the reason that I distinguish between sleep paralysis and the Incubus attacks is that so many people have them, and there seems to be characters within this situation. So you've got the old hag, as I mentioned. You've got the young male, young female. You quite often there's an imp-like creature who I've seen on one occasion as well. So my question would be, why are we seeing these? Who are these beings? But there was something more that happened. I didn't find out till 14 years later. And this was so strange when I found out. I'd been at a conference up in Stirling, and I bumped into somebody from Glasgow, and he was telling me about all these UFO experiences that he'd had in the run-up to the millennium. And he showed me a photograph. It was photoshopped. And he said that it's photoshopped. It's not like that's not real. But it was to show me what this UFO looked like that he saw. And he said that it was like a blue plasma ball, which just imploded and disappeared. And when he showed me the photograph, it was above my flat where I'd had the Incubus experience.
Oh, wow.
It was right above it. And it was this blue colour, you know, this sort of plasma blue. So that, and it also, I should say that although I didn't write down a date for this, I know that it was in the same month as my attack.
Wow.
So that makes me, you know, think that there was a connection there. And yeah, absolutely. Wow. Because you know, I've read some people, or you know, one or two people saying that they weren't really very impressed by that coincidence, whatever, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, that'd be huge for me.
I think that is a pretty huge,
yeah,
you know, connection to have made it, to corroborate my experience.
absolutely.
I would say that that's a pretty big connection, and I would say that it also suggests that sleep paralysis was not the only thing that was involved.
Yeah.
So that was a very strange well, I don't want to call it a coincidence because I don't think it was, but I don't know whether it was. I don't think it was a vehicle. As I say, I was told that it imploded and disappeared. What that sounds to me more like is some kind of portal.
That's what I was thinking.
That perhaps this being or beings were able to
came from
travel through. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
But obviously,
Yeah.
obviously I don't know.
I mean, there are such things, I guess, as coincidences and synchronicity, but I think that's more of like, here's your sign. So.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, and I do.
More to like piece together what you saw. You know, he had his own to piece together for you.
Yeah.
It was just another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and I didn't find this out till 14 years later. You know, because I'd gone along thinking it didn't really matter to me whether it was a sleep condition, because that was something that I thought perhaps, you know, maybe I have some kind of sleep condition, or, you know, maybe I actually was attacked by a demon. And it got to the point where I thought, do you know what, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that I had that experience.
It happened.
it happened, and I was traumatized by it, because I knew that. Well, at that point, I thought I'm not really going to get an answer about this, because you know, you've got the camp who believe in demons, and you've got the camp who believe in sleep paralysis and the psychological, scientific sort of explanation. And I've always felt like I had a foot in both camps. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say an open-minded skeptic, but I am a believer. But on a lot of occasions, I am quite grounded. I am quite grounded, and I do take on board, you know, scientific things as well. So I had that as a possibility, but then I was presented with this person who told me that they had seen this above my flat, and it just, everything went literally all up in the air again, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty common for us to want to put like a scientific side onto it of like, okay, well, this scared the crap out of me, but this more explains what this was that happened. But then
yeah, and that as I say, that's okay, you know, if people have an explanation that makes them feel comfortable, or that is actually the explanation, and you know, I'm not precious about it, but when more and more evidence is presented,
you can't help but
you can't help but exactly, you can't help but think there's more to this.
Now, but I mean, do you also still believe there is a medical condition as well? But that there is two things, or they are now one?
Well, there is the condition of sleep paralysis. Our body goes into paralysis when we go to sleep. And sometimes you can wake up before your body has woken up. You know, your mind wakes up before your body wakes up, and you still find yourself paralyzed. And it's a very strange state to be in, because really, you know, strange things can happen, or you can see strange things. However, I question whether sleep paralysis is utilized by these sort of negative energies and negative beings, whether it's actually utilized, but rather than an explanation for them, that they actually use it on purpose.
Okay. Like they're preying upon you.
Yeah, and you're vulnerable in that state. Or at least you think you are. You're actually not. Even although your body is paralyzed, your mind is not. And I found that out as time went on. I found that out that I could do things. I could come out of my body, and I could do things that protected myself, even although my body was actually paralyzed. I was still able to defend myself. But that comes with a lot of experience. Over time, it's just really almost found out by accident, you know, with various things, that, oh gosh, you know, I can say X, Y, and Z, and that happens. And on one occasion, it was really quite Hollywood, because I floated up and I knew that there was an entity outside my bedroom. I could feel it, as some people do feel these presences. And I came out my body and I began to, and I don't know where this came from, but I began to draw pentagrams of fire around my bed.
Oh.
And I instructed this entity to, you know, get out. And it worked. You know?
Yeah, I have, I was mentioning earlier backstage, a friend that works for a agency that has taught us a lot of things. And he said that just sometimes just controlling your mind, calming yourself in a situation can save you from those things, Joe.
Yeah.
You should have like a daily mantra, you know, like, I don't want to call it a prayer, but something that you say to basically protect yourself.
Yeah, mantras and prayers, they are great things, and sometimes they come to you spontaneously. But, you know, we all know things like the Lord's Prayer, and that is a fantastically powerful prayer to say in a situation like that. So, you know.
Now, do you feel like, well, in your experiences, can these creatures, beings, can they actually physically touch you and harm you? Like, because you see on TV the ghost shows where the guys come running out of the building scared like little girls with scratches on them. And I wonder, is that Hollywood, or is that, you know, does that something like that really happen?
Well, yes, it can happen. And there is a place in Edinburgh, Greyfriars Kirkyard. You might know it through the story of Greyfriars Bobby, the little dog who went to his master's grave every day, quite faithfully. In Greyfriars Kirkyard in Edinburgh, there's also been reports of a poltergeist, people who visit the Covenanters part of the cemetery where it's basically like a concentration camp back in the medieval days. And people were extremely cruelly treated in there. People who have visited and gone on tours there have come back with scratches on them, and they've maybe been pushed or felt like they were followed home. Maybe they have bruises on them and things like this. So, yeah, I mean, I certainly felt the scratches on my neck, but there was nothing visible. I still felt it when I woke up. My neck was sore, but there was nothing visible. I think it's also been suggested by, now somebody, I think his name's Kardec, that attacks in the astral plane might even explain things like stigmata. So there have been some people who have been attacked in the astral plane. Dion Fortune, an occultist from the early 20th century, she would come back from the astral plane and she would have bruises and scratches from having to defend herself there and have been attacked in the astral plane. So she is somebody that it was visible, but mine wasn't visible.
Good. But is that been your only experience with a? Do you call them demons,
No.
poltergeists? What is the?
Well, I mean, I guess it just depends who you are and what you believe. But you're right in saying that there are similarities between the two. I had another incident where someone came to fix something in the house, and I got a really bad feeling. You know, you just sometimes get a really bad feeling about someone, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And after he left, I didn't feel alone in my flat. He had left something with me. And that night there were clicks and snaps I could hear from like in my bedroom. The next day there was this big sort of, as I went over to open the curtains, right where I was, there was this big like bang, like imagine somebody slamming their hand down on a book. And I couldn't find any cause for these things. There was sounds of things falling, and then my kitchen flooded. And at that point, I just turned round and addressed the room and said, "You can't attach yourself to me. This is my home. And you better leave it right now, because this is not happening." A couple of weeks went by, and then I'd wake up with the sound of scratches in the wall, like scratching in the wall. The bed would be shaking, the walls would be shaking, the shelves would be shaking. And I told it to go away, and another fortnight went by, something like that, and then I woke up being attacked by this invisible force. So it had me by the wrists, and I was pushing it off, and by that point I was able to get angry with these things, that were invasive. If anything like that happened, I could get angry with them now instead of being fearful, because I believe that they do feed on your fear. So I could change that. I changed that to being like, it's righteous anger. You've got every right to be angry if something is trying to attack you. So again, I told it to leave in no uncertain terms. And after that, I decided I'm doing an exorcism in here. So the flat got completely, cleansed, smudge sticks, and it was incense, but it had the same effect, and holy water and things like that. And then I used the part of the ritual Romanum, the Roman ritual of exorcism. And the next night, I was sitting at my computer, and the sound of millions of hailstones against glass was on my ceiling. This sort of, and it was really noisy, sort of static, that kind of staticky. And my cats were looking up as well. It wasn't just me, because I looked at them to see what they were doing. You know, was this affecting them? And they were just staring at the ceiling as well and looking like, what is that? I guess it went on for about a minute or so, something like that, but a significant amount of time. And I asked the lady upstairs, and she was like, no, because she would have had to have been floating above her living room, above her back bedroom, and just like emptying lots of, I don't know, beads or something like that onto, you know, but it was nothing like that that had happened. And I later found out, when I was researching for a talk on demons, that this is something that happened to another priest. They pretty much the same sequence of events. It's a book called Begone Satan by Carl Vogel, and pretty much the same sort of events. There was the scratching sounds on the wall, and the wall shaking and the bed shaking, and the attack by one of these entities. And then after the exorcism, the sound of hailstones on the ceiling. Now, I hadn't read that yet. This was only afterwards. And this apparently signifies the end of the exorcism. It means that the exorcism has been successful. And that is the energy dissipating. And so I thought, wow, I did it. I actually did it. And that kind of, that opened a door, because it told me that that was something that I could do. And it led to me becoming a deacon and an exorcist in the OCAC. So that was another one. That was another attack that happened.
Wow. Well, I mean, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, that's a cool experience," but I'm sure in the moment it's very terrifying.
It was really terrifying, actually. It is, but you can, when you get used to strange things happening, you can get over that. It's like, I was trained in cognitive behavioural hypnotherapy, and I specialised in animal phobias. And just knowing how to deal with phobias was probably a big help, actually, because the more you face your fear, the more your brain will realise that you're not in a dangerous situation. And the more that you can relax in that situation, the better. So it's a case of like changing the mindset to I'm not going to be frightened here, and I know people can tell themselves that, and it might not always work, but hopefully as time goes on, if this is something that's a regular thing with people, then they will be able to have their mind become stronger and be able to deal with these things.
And I think too, if you're dealing with it more on the regular, you start to be like, okay, I'm not scared anymore. You're getting on my nerves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's mind control. It's intent. It's one of the big things that my friend in the 3-letter agency teaches us: intent. Control your mind. It's intent. And so it can do more than you think. I mean, obviously, if you're in a one and done situation, like it's a one-time attack and you've never had this happen, and hopefully never do again, it terrifies you. So,
Yeah.
now, do you believe? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, thankfully, I have not had anything like that happen in quite some time. So
good. Let's hope we never do again. Do you? I know what we put the name demon poltergeist. Do you believe the UFO phenomena may also have something to do with that, or is that something totally separate? Because here in the States, there's a lot of people that like to put everything in one nice little category, and you leave it alone. You don't move it outside that box.
that's such a good question, because I think when it comes to extraterrestrials, there are extraterrestrials who are helpful and peaceful, and there are extraterrestrials on the other side of the spectrum, who are extremely sort of bad and nasty, and want things from us or take things from us. They might abduct people. And I actually asked a bishop what he thought these aliens that abduct people, what do they want? What is it they're looking for? And he said they want our souls. That's what they're looking for. They don't have souls of their own. Now, whether he's right or not, I don't know. But my husband is a psychic medium, as I say. He has had a conversation with an alien who came to him. And the only question that this alien wanted to know was, tell me about human emotions, which indicated that they didn't understand emotions. So that's kind of psychopathic. That's kind of a soulless entity. So maybe the bishop was right. Maybe that's what they're looking for, is their soul. I mean, yeah, I don't really know how else to answer that. I know that it's becoming a big thing, this UFOs and demons. That seems to be something that a lot of people are looking at. Trying to think who it was. I want to say John Keel. I think it was John Keel who had that belief that that demons and aliens, or demons and UFOs, were very closely linked. But what it becomes, it's a belief, and you don't have the proof.
Like, are you referring to Mothman John Keel?
Yeah, that guy. I'm sure it was him that said that. But yeah, it comes down to what? Yeah, if you believe it or not. But some people will believe it because they maybe have had experiences on the astral plane that have indicated that this is the case. So,
wow. Well, I believe there's
I think if you look at it closely, there's a strong parallel, I think, between the two.
Yeah. I think when you look at the mythologies of several different kinds of beings, you find parallels. You can find parallels between extraterrestrials and aliens and fairies as well. And when I had another experience with extraterrestrials and saw them very clearly, I wasn't able to, when I thought about it, were they like aliens, extraterrestrials, or were they angels, or were they gods? And I think in some cases it can be like your cultural background will inform you, and your own beliefs will sort of step in, and you'll think, like, if you're perhaps more scientifically minded and you're involved in things like ufology, and you see something like that, you're more likely to think it was aliens. And if you're religious, you're more likely to think it was angels. There was a sighting, actually, this comes to mind, and I can't remember the details of it, but I know that this is a Scottish sighting where mother and daughter both saw this bright light in their garden. And when the mother described it, she described it as an angel. But when the daughter described it, she described it as a UFO. So, the two different belief systems, it must come into play at some point.
And I think it also could be depending on what they want you to see them as.
That's another thing, yeah. They can show themselves in what, perhaps a way, if they're a helpful extraterrestrial, then they can show themselves in a way that's less frightening to you. The ones that I saw when I woke up, and there was a circle in the ceiling above me with a light going to my forehead, and there was a being looking over. And when he saw that I saw him, he said to someone that I couldn't see, "We've got her." And then others come over, and one of them leaned down, and all he said, my only task, mission or whatever, "You have to tell people about us." And I said, "I will." And he said, "No, you must promise that you'll tell people about us." As I say, afterwards, I didn't know. I couldn't quite put my finger on what type of being it was. But I think I've come to think of them as being angelic, certainly peaceful and helpful. But they were in slick spacesuits, and it was like a platform they were looking down from. But these sort of experiences have been, you can see it in artwork, particularly artwork of the Annunciation, where Mary's given the message that she's going to have the Son of God. Now this is more, I think, to do with the artists, that have either heard of this experience or they've experienced it themselves. This beam of light to the forehead, and it's evident in some artwork of the Annunciation. So it's definitely, I think, Crivelli is one of the main ones. It's definitely there, and also the platform you see in a lot of churches. Like a platform with angels looking down from a platform. So. And it's supposed to be like looking down from heaven. So I think people have experienced this. I've not met anyone who's experienced it, but I think that they have, and I think in the past that they have, and that's why it's become involved in art.
That's a reach that's very easily obtainable. I agree with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I want to circle back to something, a comment you said. You said gods, plural, and so I know it's kind of a not weird, but a touchy subject with some. But some people believe in Allah, Buddha, Zeus, Odin, Yahweh. I could go on. Are there more than one deity, or is it a cultural thing with the representation of what they are?
Again, I think cultural, and time, the time that perhaps people see these things. At the point that, I mean, this was before I had found my sort of Christian faith. I was, and still kind of have, aspects of paganism within what my beliefs, but I think that the ancient Greek gods. See, I did my degree in classics, and so I knew a bit about the ancient Greek gods. I also started the Glasgow University Pagan Society to look at ancient traditions and religions. And I came to think that the ancient Greek gods were, I mean, some of these gods were either made angels or made to become demons. You know, like Pan, for example, the horned god. These were sort of more demonized in Christianity. So I guess I've got a mixture of cultures. I think maybe it's just like the time period that we're in. There's this mixture of cultures, and mixture of information that comes to you. And I think these beings present themselves in a way that they think you will understand them. But I did find some connections between things like the god Hermes, whose mother was Maya, and Maya is one of the seven sisters. And the seven sisters is the star system, the Pleiades. The beings that I saw, people have also drawn as, you know, more like sort of Star Trek-y, Space Brothers, and they've called them Palladians. And they've said that they're from the star system, the Pleiades. So that was a bit of a connection there, you know. So I think that we see these things through our own eyes, you know. Obviously that's a bit it's a bit daft to say that, but you know, we
what things I mean that we know,
the culture, the background that we come from, and they manifest in a way that we understand.
It's like I was raised very strict religion, and everything was either good or bad. It was either angel or demon, and anything you saw was a demon, because the angels don't manifest themselves that way. That's the way I was raised, and I've since, I've educated myself a bit more to learn that may not necessarily be the case, which is one of the reasons that I have the show, because I like to explore and find out other people's beliefs, and learn the different cultures, as well as I don't think we know a lot about a lot, if that makes sense. I think we know a pin drop full of information in a bucket full of a galaxy. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very, very similar on my side. I mean, I was raised in church and did everything with the church, but I was always very much the oddball of like, well, you know, I can accept that, but I think there are other things. You know, I still consider myself a Christian, but I am a very open-minded Christian.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
But, you know, there's
I am, so.
there are always going to be things out there that we can't explain, and, you know, it's just how it is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Is there anything that we can do, well, I'll just say a normal human being, one that's not educated very much, to protect ourselves from these type of attacks and beings? And
I mean, there's a lot that we can do. We can the easiest thing is prayer, as I mentioned before, and connecting, just that connection with the divine, whatever your divine is, you know, whether it's God or Buddha or Allah, you know, that's a personal thing, and I'm not here to convert anyone. But that, I think it's an important thing, is to have that connection, because that gives you a lot of strength, and get help from the angels as well. And you can also do things like visualization techniques. So you can, one important thing is to close down, if you've been doing any kind of psychic work or healing or anything like that, particularly the third eye, is to shut that down. And you know, you can do it imagining a door closing and being bolted shut, padlocked, whatever. You can imagine that you're in a protective bubble, or the Saint Michael, his blue cape wrapped around you, because Saint Michael the Archangel is particularly good for things like demons. And there's the Saint Michael prayer as well. And yeah, the other saints who can be good for demonic attacks. So there's lots of different things that you can do. I'm trying to think if I've left anything out there, really. But there's many different things that you can do. As I say, especially visualization is very good, and just imagining that barrier, and also your own mindset of, no, you're not getting in here, no, you're not going to be in my life, and you know, having that strength of character to shut something out.
I think a lot of that comes back around to, you know, your, like Glenn was saying, the intent, and you putting your own intent into, you're not going to mess with me.
Yeah. It's very difficult in the moment, though, because in the moment you can be really quite terrified, because you're experiencing something that is completely out of the ordinary. It's just not like anything that you're used to. You know, we don't go around seeing demons every day, you know, thankfully. And then when suddenly you're usually in a weakened state as well, like sleep paralysis or whatever. So it's extremely difficult to not be terrified. So in that situation, I would say call on the angels, call on God, Jesus, Mary. Mary's a very powerful figure as well. I'm very drawn to the figure of Mary. I think that's why I ended up being in a Catholic church, a liberal Catholic church. So I'm very drawn to her, and she's an extremely powerful figure and friend to have in such situations. So yeah, that's what I would say to people to do.
And it is hard to do in the moment. I only had one sleep paralysis event that terrified me, and we were out camping in the woods, and it was horrifying. I could see, I was in a tent, and I could see the entire tent was lit up, and there was something in there with me with a bright light from above, like a golden shining light. No idea what it was. I could hear something outside scratching the tent, and I couldn't move. That was a big, you know, we were way out in the woods then, so it wasn't like you're gonna get they'd have to helicopter somebody in. So yeah, it was a very terrifying event.
Wow.
So I can understand the moment how terrifying it is. But
I think it's very strong, though, in those moments of you know, you have your faith in whatever it is you have your faith in. But
well, I went back to my friend, and he was actually camping with me that night, and he said, concentrate on one thing when it happens, You can move your pinky. You can move your pinky, you can move your ring finger. If you can move your ring finger, you got your whole hand. He said, then you can get a hold of something and get out of it. And that was what they trained them. And so that, along with the intent, I didn't know enough at the time to have the strong, get the hell out of here. Was at that moment, I'd never had it happen before. And I hope I never have that happen again. I mean, I've had sleep. I've had events where I've kind of, like you said, you've woke up, but you've not woke up yet. And you're kind of addled, kind of just in that zone. I've had those, but nothing terrifying like that except for the one time. I hope I never have that again. But the only thing I saw was a frog.
The only thing what?
The only thing I saw was a frog.
Oh,
frog came through the side of the tent, looked face to face with a frog, an ordinary frog, and then just
that's lovely.
To the top of the town. I had no idea what that means. If it means something,
he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he's like, "Hey, I'm just as much not knowing what's going on here as you, man."
Yeah.
Ooh, here I go.
Well, frogs are in the ancient Greek myths. They are associated with the underworld because it's like they have a foot in both places, both spheres of the underworld, like water and land, and the ability to go between the two of these. So they're associated with things like that. There's a comedy by Aristophanes called Frogs, and it's the Frogs Chorus, and the frogs are in the underworld in the river Styx. So there is an association there with the other side.
Interesting.
See, that's always something I'm very interested in whenever you wind up in situations like that and you see something like that. It's like, okay, well, the frog's got to mean something.
Yeah, symbolism. These things can be like power animals, rather than, I think totem is more like a family thing, but power animals that will come to you when you need their help. And I've used animals in rituals before, circles. I've asked them to certain directions certain animals are associated with, like the eagle and air, a bird and air, the bear and earth, it's just more of an earthy sort of animal, and dolphin or salmon or some kind of fish for water. So I've used these power animals to help in rituals too. Yeah, I'm very fond of animals. I really am. I'm big into animal rights. I've rescued a couple of cats, and I'm vegetarian.
Right
I was
vegan.
I was vegan. I'm quite sure at some point I will go back to it, but at the moment I'm not. At the moment I'm vegetarian, but I'm very much into like cruelty-free sort of side of things.
Yeah.
I
think animals in overall are very powerful, even our own pets, to know when something's off, something's wrong.
Yeah. I think from people that I've spoken to who have had strange experiences, now it's not just people who have had strange experiences, but the experience themselves can often make people more aware and more compassionate of such things. And it might be something like more like environmental as well. But I've noticed this sort of pattern between people having experiences and then going on to be just more aware of certain things, certain important things.
Well, Allison, I said earlier we didn't want to keep you all day. I know you've got plenty of things to do besides to talk to us. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you, and where can they find some of your works published, and just all that good stuff?
Okay. Well, my email address is spiscotland@gmail.com. I've got a couple of web pages, revalysondunlopshanes.com and allisondunlop.com, and it's ALYSON. I've also, I want SPI Scotland. I've got ADX Files, that's my radio show, and anything else. Yeah, so I'm on Facebook with both those things. Can't think of anything else right now. Obviously, we've got the Scottish Conference. I've got that web page as well, because we've got the Scottish Conference happening. It's the Scottish UFO and Paranormal Conference that I co-organise, and that's on the 15th of June. So it's nearly here. It's exciting times, stressful times. But people can get a hold of my book on Amazon, and if they come along to the conference, then they can get a signed copy, and I'll even give them a reduction in price. So you can't say more than that.
And to get to meet you, it's a pleasure.
And they get to meet me. I'm not sure if that's really.
Well, you're humble, but I feel like it is. Getting just to have this little bit of time to me is kind of cherished. So I appreciate your time. I hope
it was lovely being here.
Get together again sometime. I know it's hard to schedule, but I still have a million questions for you. So maybe we can schedule a part 2 in the near future. So
yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Allison, I'm gonna let you go enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And
you too.
It's the morning here in the States.
Well, enjoy the rest of your morning.
Yeah. Well, I think
Go get another cup of coffee.
Yeah. I think I had my family drop in unexpectedly from Tennessee, so I'm gonna go see them before they have to return back. Yeah, it was. I wasn't expecting it, but yeah, kids, they just return when they want to. So.
We tend to like to show up unannounced, so I like to do that to my mom.
That's fine. But Allison, have a great day. We will talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
We'll get another show scheduled because I've got lots more questions for you.
Okay. All right. That'd be lovely. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That was a cool show.
Yeah. I look forward to the part 2 and maybe 3 of that.
Yeah, like I said, I've got more questions and answers, I think, now. So it's just very educational. And I'm glad that she took time out of her day to spend with us, because a lot of people just kind of go, who are you?
No, I really enjoy getting to talk to those people that have some of those same views. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Shay, well, I know you have another show you're doing today, so I'll let you go to it, and people can find this recorded episode we'll put out in the near future, and you can find us Monday night doing the football show, Wednesday night Paranormal Guyz again, and Friday Great and Guardian, the public safety show, Saturday the Misfits, and then we just wash, rinse, repeat. So, and you can find me over on Tuesdays and Thursdays on thethinlinerockstation.com, playing all the songs, and Friday nights on Flashbacks. So make sure to check me out there. Until next time. I'll be around.
I'm just going to drag you along with me, Shay.
Yep.
Well, and by the way, for everybody, I want to make sure everybody knows I sincerely appreciate everything Shay does for this show. It's all for free, so we're still learning the ropes. So
go check out all